There is a woman in your city right now who wakes up at 5 in the morning, spends 11 hours a day being legally responsible for other people's children, and goes home with less money than some of the parents who drop those kids off. She's not failing. She's not bad at business. She owns a daycare. And daycare might quietly be one of the most brutal businesses you can start, dressed up as one of the safest. 20 kids, $200 a month each. That's $4,000 a month on paper. Looks like easy money. It is almost never easy money. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly why and exactly what it actually takes to make this business work. This is the economics of owning a daycare.
Let's start with the number every daycare owner puts on their business plan: revenue. Say you run a small daycare. 20 children, each parent pays $200 a month. That's $4,000 a month, $48,000 a year, sitting right there on paper. Compare that to a 9-to-5 job, and it looks like freedom. No boss, no commute, and you're doing something that actually matters, raising other people's children while they're at work. But revenue is not profit. Revenue is what walks in the door. Profit is what's left after everything else walks out. And in the daycare business, almost everything walks out. Before you even open, you're required by law, in most places, to meet a staff-to-child ratio. For toddlers, that's usually one adult for every 4 to 6 children. Infants can be even stricter, sometimes one adult for every 3 or 4 babies, which means your 20 kids don't need one staff member. Depending on their ages, they might need 4, 5, even 6. Every one of those staff members needs a paycheck, whether you add 18 kids that month or 20. That single rule is the first crack in the dream, and it's a crack that never closes.
Before we even get to monthly running costs, let's talk about what it takes just to start. Opening a licensed daycare usually means renovating a space to meet code: child-proofed outlets, fire exits, fenced outdoor play areas, age-appropriate furniture, and enough bathrooms for the number of children you plan to serve. Add in cribs, changing stations, educational materials, and safety equipment, and the startup bill for even a small operation can run into the tens of thousands of dollars before you've enrolled a single child. Then there's the paperwork that costs money before it earns you a cent. Business licensing, a childcare-specific operating license, zoning approval, fire department sign-off, and health inspections. Many of these have to be renewed annually, meaning even your government paperwork becomes a recurring cost, not a one-time hurdle. Most people who go into daycare underestimate this stage entirely. They budget for toys and snacks. They forget that the government treats a room full of unsupervised children as one of the most heavily regulated categories a small business can fall into. And regulation, no matter how necessary, always has a price tag attached.
Now let's talk about what actually eats that $48,000 a year month after month. Staff wages come first, and they're the biggest bite. 4 or 5 caregivers, even at modest pay, can easily run you $2,500 to $3,500 a month combined. That's before you've paid rent, before you've bought a single toy. Rent and licensing come next. A daycare isn't just any rental space. It has to pass fire codes, child safety inspections, playground safety standards, and health department reviews. Landlords know this, and they charge for it. Add licensing renewal fees and mandatory liability insurance, because if a child gets hurt on your watch, you are legally exposed, and you're already looking at hundreds more a month before a single child arrives. Food and supplies are constant and unglamorous. Diapers, snacks, cleaning products, art supplies, nap mats. None of it is expensive individually. All of it together every single week for 20 children adds up fast. Background checks and training are ongoing, not one time. Every staff member needs to be vetted, certified in first aid and CPR, and recertified on a schedule. That's money and time spent before they ever change a diaper, and it repeats every time someone new is hired. And that brings us to a cost most outsiders never think about at all: staff turnover. Childcare work is physically and emotionally exhausting, and it's often paid close to minimum wage. Turnover in this industry is notoriously high. Every time a caregiver quits, you're not just losing a worker, you're paying to advertise the role, screen candidates, run new background checks, and retrain someone from scratch, all while possibly falling below your legally required ratio in the meantime, which can mean touring paying families away. Add it all up, and a daycare pulling in $48,000 a year can easily spend $40,000 or more just standing still. That leaves an owner with a profit margin that looks less like a business and more like a part-time job, except this job comes with legal liability for other people's children and government inspectors who can shut you down for a single missed requirement.
Here's the part most people never think about. Daycare income is not stable, but daycare costs are. A restaurant loses a customer, another one walks in the same night. A daycare loses a child, and that spot can sit empty for weeks because parents don't switch daycares casually. They research, they visit, they ask other parents, they check reviews. Filling one empty seat can take a month, sometimes longer. But your costs don't wait for that seat to fill. Your staff still needs paying because the ratio law doesn't care that you're short one child. Your rent is still due on the first. If you had 20 kids and lose 2, you didn't lose 10% of your headache. You lost 10% of your revenue while keeping close to 100% of your costs. This is why so many daycares run painfully close to break even. They're not badly run, they're structurally fragile. A business where costs are fixed and rigid by law, but income can drop overnight and take months to recover.
If the margins are this thin, why does anyone do this? 2 reasons. First, because at a certain size, the math flips. A daycare with 20 kids is fighting for survival. A daycare with 60 or 80 kids spread across a bigger facility starts generating real profit, because rent doesn't triple just because you tripled your capacity, and neither does your own management time as the owner. Your core administrative overhead stays roughly flat while your revenue climbs. This is the quiet truth behind almost every boring service business. Restaurants, gyms, daycares, salons. Small is where people go broke. Scale is where people get rich. Second, smart daycare owners stop selling one product. A flat monthly rate for standard hours is the bare floor of what a daycare can charge. The ones that actually turn a profit add layers on top of it. Premium infant care at a higher rate because infants require lower ratios and higher attention. Extended hours for parents who work late billed separately. Drop-in care for non-regular days. Meals included as an upsell instead of parents packing lunch. None of these cost much more to deliver, but each one adds margin on top of a base that was barely breaking even by itself. The owner running one tiny daycare on a single flat rate is doing the hardest version of this business for the smallest reward. The owner running a bigger facility with tiered pricing is running an actual company and collecting the margin that comes with it.
At small scale, on a single flat rate, it's one of the most emotionally rewarding, financially unforgiving businesses you can start. Thin margins, rigid legal requirements, staff costs that never flex downward, and income that can vanish overnight while your costs stay locked in place. At real scale, with the right location, enough enrollment to spread your fixed costs, and layered pricing instead of one flat rate, it becomes a legitimately strong, recession-resistant business, because parents will always need somewhere safe for their kids while they work, in good economies and bad ones. The lesson here goes beyond daycares. Before you romanticize any simple business, a daycare, a food truck, small gym, ask the question that actually matters. What happens to my costs if my customers drop by 20% tomorrow? If the answer is, I'm still paying the same bills, you're not looking at a business yet. You're looking at a very expensive, heavily regulated hobby with legal liability attached, until you have the scale to change that answer. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribe. Every week, I take apart a business people think is simple and show you what the numbers actually say. Next week, we're doing the same thing to an industry everyone thinks is easy money and almost nobody actually understands. I'll see you in the next one.